In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a woman enjoyed a calm afternoon in her cozy home. She had always loved this place, filled with warmth and memories. It was her sanctuary, a space where she could relax and be herself. She sipped her tea, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves outside, feeling completely at ease. But her peaceful day took an unexpected turn when a loud knock shattered the tranquility. She opened the door to find a police officer standing there, looking serious and a bit impatient. He had come in response to a noise complaint from a neighbor. The woman felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she noticed the officer's demeanor. He seemed ready for a confrontation, not a conversation. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, trying to keep her tone calm. Instead of addressing her directly, the officer immediately launched into accusations, claiming that she was causing a disturbance. Confused, she tried to explain that she had been alone in her house, enjoying her day. But the officer didn't listen. He raised his voice, making her feel small and helpless. "You need to step outside," he ordered, his tone harsh and uncompromising. Feeling a mix of anger and disbelief, she protested, "But this is my home. I have every right to be here." The officer's expression hardened, and he insisted that she leave her own property. She could feel her heart racing as he continued to bark orders, making her feel as if she was guilty of something. It was humiliating to be kicked out of her home by someone who was supposed to protect her rights. With no choice but to comply, she stepped outside, the door closing behind her with a finality that felt crushing. As she stood on the porch, her mind raced with a whirlwind of emotions. She felt angry and confused. How could this happen? The neighbors watched in silence, some shaking their heads, others looking away, unsure of what to do. It was a moment that felt surreal, like something out of a movie. She was a law-abiding citizen, and yet here she was, being treated like a criminal. The officer got into his car and drove away, leaving her standing outside her home, vulnerable and exposed. The sun was shining, but it felt like a dark cloud had settled over her. She looked around, her neighbors still lingering nearby, and she knew she had to speak up. This wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who had faced similar treatment. Determined not to let this injustice go unnoticed, she pulled out her phone and began recording a video, sharing her story with the world. She spoke passionately about what had just happened, her voice shaking with anger but also filled with resolve. She wanted others to know that this kind of behavior from the police was unacceptable. In those few minutes, she transformed her pain into a powerful message. Her video quickly spread on social media, resonating with many who had experienced similar encounters. Comments poured in, offering support and sharing their own stories of unfair treatment. It became clear that her experience was part of a larger issue, one that needed to be addressed. With the support of her community rallying behind her, she felt a spark of hope igniting within her. Instead of being defeated, she was determined to fight back. She wasn't going to let this moment define her. She was ready to reclaim her power and demand justice, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt marginalized or oppressed. As she gathered her thoughts, a new strength surged through her. She realized that she had the power to turn her anger into action, and this was just the beginning of her journey. After sharing her story online, the woman was amazed at how quickly her video went viral. She had expected some support, but the flood of messages from people all over the country was overwhelming. Many shared their own experiences of being mistreated by the police, recounting similar feelings of anger and helplessness. It was clear that her situation resonated with many, and this realization sparked a fire in her heart. As days passed, she found herself surrounded by friends, family, and neighbors who wanted to help her turn her pain into action. They gathered at her house to discuss what steps to take next. Everyone shared ideas and strategies, eager to find a way to make their voices heard. There was a sense of camaraderie, a feeling that they were all in this together. During one of the meetings, a neighbor suggested organizing a community rally. "Let's bring everyone together," they said. We can stand up for what's right and show that we won't be silenced. The idea excited her. It felt empowering to think about gathering people to demand change. They started planning, creating flyers, and reaching out to local groups who could lend their support. As the day of the rally approached, she felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. She wanted to make sure their message was clear and powerful. The community worked tirelessly, planning speeches, music, and even a march through their neighborhood. They wanted to show that they were united, that they would not back down in the face of injustice. When the day finally arrived, she could hardly believe the turnout. People from all walks of life gathered in the park, holding signs that read "Justice for all" and "Enough is enough." The energy was electric. It felt like a wave of hope washing over them. She took a deep breath, feeling both anxious and empowered as she prepared to speak. Standing at the front of the crowd, she looked out at the sea of faces, all united for a common cause. As she began to speak, her voice shook at first, but then she found her rhythm. She shared her story, detailing the humiliation and anger she felt that day. She spoke about the importance of standing together to challenge unfair treatment, reminding everyone that they had the right to be heard. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, and she could see the determination in their eyes. It was a moment she would never forget, a moment of strength, solidarity, and hope. Her words echoed in the air, igniting passion and resolve among everyone present. As the rally continued, community leaders and activists took the stage, sharing their own experiences and encouraging others to speak out. There was a sense of unity as everyone listened intently, knowing that they were not alone in their struggles. The atmosphere was filled with positivity, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a genuine sense of hope. After the rally, the media began to take notice. News outlets showed up to cover the event, interviewing her and other speakers. The woman realized that their voices were finally being amplified, reaching people beyond their community. It was exhilarating to think that they could inspire change on a larger scale. As the days went by, the police department faced increasing pressure from the community and the media. They could no longer ignore the outcry for justice. The woman knew that they were starting to make an impact, and this motivated her even more to continue fighting for what was right. Feeling the weight of responsibility, she began connecting with local organizations focused on police reform. They offered resources and support, helping her navigate the next steps in her fight for justice. She learned about filing complaints, legal rights, and how to work effectively with community leaders to bring about real change. With each passing day, her determination grew stronger. She understood that this journey was not just about her. It was about creating a better future for everyone. The fight against injustice had become her mission, and she was ready to see it through to the end. With her newfound determination, the woman dove into her mission to bring about change. She began attending meetings with local activists and community leaders, eager to learn and contribute. Each meeting was a chance to discuss strategies, share ideas, and support one another. The atmosphere was charged with energy, filled with passionate people who believed that they could make a difference. One evening, as they gathered in a community center, the group discussed the need for accountability within the police department. They spoke about how crucial it was to have systems in place to protect citizens from unjust treatment. One of the leaders suggested they create a petition to demand better training for officers, focusing on community relations and racial sensitivity. This idea resonated with everyone, and they set to work drafting the petition right away. In the following weeks, they spent their evenings and weekends gathering signatures. The woman went door to door in her neighborhood, explaining the petition and asking for support. Many people were eager to sign, sharing their own experiences with police misconduct. It was eye-opening to hear their stories. She realized just how many others had faced similar challenges. This strengthened her resolve to push for change even more. Word of their efforts began to spread, and more people joined their cause. They organized information sessions to educate others about their rights and how to safely document interactions with the police. The sessions were well attended, with community members eager to learn how to protect themselves and stand up for their rights. Each session ended with discussions about how they could continue to push for justice together. As the petition gathered momentum, local media outlets started covering their story. News articles highlighted their grassroots efforts, shining a light on the importance of police reform. The woman felt a sense of pride knowing that they were being heard. More and more community members became involved, attending meetings and sharing ideas on how to make a lasting impact. One day, they received news that the police department had agreed to meet with them to discuss their concerns. This was a significant step forward, and excitement buzzed through the group. They spent hours preparing for the meeting, writing down their main points and practicing how to articulate their demands. The woman felt nervous but also hopeful. This was their chance to have their voices heard by those in power. On the day of the meeting, she arrived with a group of supporters. As they entered the conference room, she could feel the weight of the moment. It was not just about her. It was about everyone who had ever felt marginalized or unheard. They presented their petition, detailing the need for better training and community outreach. The representatives from the police department listened intently, and she noticed that they seemed genuinely interested in their concerns. As the discussion continued, the atmosphere shifted from one of tension to one of collaboration. They exchanged ideas, discussing ways to improve community relations and build trust between the police and residents. It was a long meeting, but she could sense progress being made. Their collective voices were finally being acknowledged, and it felt empowering. After the meeting, the woman received positive feedback from several officers who were open to making changes. While there was still a long way to go, she felt hopeful that they were on the right path. The conversation had opened doors for future discussions and potential reforms. As the weeks went by, she continued to work tirelessly, organizing follow-up meetings and collaborating with the police department to implement changes. She stayed in touch with her supporters, making sure everyone felt included in the process. This journey had brought the community closer together, and she could see the impact of their collective efforts. One day, as she reflected on how far they had come, she realized that this fight was more than just about her experience. It was about building a safer, more just community for everyone. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the support she received and for the resilience of those around her. Together, they were creating a movement that could bring about real change, and she was proud to be part of it. The road ahead would be challenging, but with unity and determination, she knew they could make a difference. As the Community Advisory Board continued to meet regularly, excitement buzzed in the air. The woman felt a sense of purpose as she watched the group grow stronger with each gathering. Residents and officers began to form friendships, and there was a shared sense of commitment to improving their neighborhood. Ideas flowed freely as they discussed ways to strengthen their bond and tackle ongoing issues. One day, someone suggested organizing a community festival to celebrate their progress. The idea was met with enthusiasm, and they quickly began brainstorming. The festival would include fun activities for families, live music, food stalls, and games for children. The goal was to create a positive atmosphere where everyone could come together, enjoy each other's company, and showcase the strength of their community. She took on the responsibility of leading the planning committee for the festival. With the help of volunteers from both the community and the police department, they began coordinating every detail. They reached out to local businesses for sponsorships and donations, seeking help to provide food and entertainment. As the festival drew closer, excitement grew. Flyers were posted around town, and social media buzzed with updates. On the day of the festival, the sun shone brightly, and the park was filled with laughter and chatter. Colorful banners decorated the area, and a stage was set up for local bands to play. The woman looked around, feeling proud of what they had accomplished. Families set up picnic blankets on the grass, while children ran around playing games. She could see officers engaging with the community, playing basketball with kids, and chatting with parents. It was a beautiful sight. Throughout the day, she moved around the festival, checking in on various activities. She stopped at a booth where kids were painting and crafting, and she smiled as she saw the creativity on display. Next, she headed over to the food stalls, enjoying the delicious aromas wafting through the air. People were mingling, sharing stories, and laughing together. It was everything she had hoped for, a day of connection and celebration. As the afternoon turned into evening, the atmosphere shifted to one of excitement as local bands took the stage. The music brought people together, and before long, a crowd gathered to dance. The woman joined in, feeling the energy of the moment. It was a powerful reminder of how far they had come since that day when she had been kicked out of her own home. Now here they were, celebrating unity and progress. As the sun began to set, she gathered everyone for a closing speech. Standing on the stage, she looked out at the smiling faces, filled with joy and hope. "Thank you all for coming today," she began, her heart swelling with pride. "This festival is not just about fun. It's a celebration of our hard work and commitment to each other. Together, we have made progress, and we will continue to do so. Let's keep building this community and supporting one another." The crowd erupted in applause, and she felt a wave of warmth wash over her. It was a reminder that they were in this together, fighting for a better future. The festival ended with a dazzling fireworks display, lighting up the night sky and leaving everyone in awe. As people began to pack up and head home, the woman felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had witnessed the transformation of her community, and it filled her with hope. They had started to heal the wounds of the past and were creating a new narrative, one of unity, respect, and understanding. In the weeks that followed, the festival continued to have a lasting impact. People were more engaged with one another, and the connections that were made helped strengthen the relationships within the community. The advisory board met regularly to discuss new initiatives, and they were excited about the possibilities ahead. The woman knew there would still be challenges, but she felt more equipped to face them alongside her neighbors and friends. They had built a foundation of trust and communication, and she was ready to keep pushing for change. Together, they were not just changing their community, they were changing lives. The journey was far from over, but with every step they took, they were getting closer to the world they wanted to create, one where everyone felt safe, respected, and valued. As the days turned into weeks, the woman and her community remained committed to their mission of fostering a better relationship with the police and creating a safer environment for everyone. The success of the festival had energized them, and they felt motivated to take on new projects. They began brainstorming ideas that could bring the community together and further improve relations with law enforcement. During one of the advisory board meetings, a member proposed starting a youth mentorship program. The idea was to pair local youth with police officers who could act as mentors and role models. This initiative would allow young people to build positive relationships with law enforcement while also providing guidance and support. The woman loved the idea and immediately started working on how to implement it. They reached out to schools in the area, asking for support in identifying students who might benefit from the program. Many educators were excited about the prospect and offered to help connect them with interested students. With the schools on board, they organized a kickoff event to introduce the mentorship program. The plan was to invite both students and officers to come together for a fun day of activities, allowing them to get to know one another in a relaxed environment. The day of the event arrived, and the excitement was palpable. The park was buzzing with energy as officers and students mingled, enjoying games like basketball, soccer, and even a tug-of-war. The woman watched as laughter filled the air, and young people who might have once felt apprehensive around police officers were now engaging with them in friendly competition. It was heartwarming to see connections forming. After the games, they gathered for a lunch of hot dogs and hamburgers. As everyone ate, the woman encouraged the students to share their thoughts and feelings about the program. Some spoke openly about their initial fears or misconceptions about police officers, while others shared how nice it was to have an officer as a mentor. It was a valuable opportunity for everyone to learn from each other. To make the program more effective, the officers volunteered to hold regular workshops focused on topics relevant to the youth. They discussed issues like making safe choices, understanding the law, and developing skills for future careers. The students were eager to learn, and the officers were happy to share their knowledge and experiences. It became clear that this program was not only about mentorship, but also about fostering mutual respect and understanding. As the months went by, the mentorship program flourished. The woman was amazed at how many positive changes she witnessed. Students began to approach officers with more confidence, and the officers became more involved in community activities. It was as if a bridge had been built between two groups that had once felt distant from each other. Meanwhile, the woman continued to gather feedback from both the youth and the officers to ensure the program met their needs. She organized regular meetings to discuss successes and challenges, always looking for ways to improve. It was important to her that everyone felt included in this process. One day, she received a heartfelt email from a parent expressing gratitude for the mentorship program. The parent shared how their child had blossomed with the support of their officer mentor. This message touched her deeply and served as a reminder of the impact they were making. Stories like this motivated her to keep pushing forward and inspire others to join their cause. As the year came to a close, the community organized a celebration to honor the achievements of the mentorship program. They invited everyone involved to come together and share their experiences. The event was filled with joy, stories, and laughter. The woman felt overwhelmed with pride as she listened to the students share how their mentors had influenced their lives. Looking out at the smiling faces, she realized that their efforts were truly making a difference. They had turned a challenging situation into an opportunity for growth and connection. It was clear that the work they had done together was helping to heal old wounds and build a brighter future. The woman felt a renewed sense of purpose as she reflected on the journey they had taken. From the moment she had been unjustly kicked out of her house, she had turned her pain into a force for good. Now she was leading a movement that was not only transforming her community, but also inspiring others to advocate for positive change. With the support of her neighbors, friends, and mentors, she knew they could continue to push for progress. Together, they were writing a new story, one filled with hope, understanding, and unity. The journey ahead was still long, but she was ready to face it with determination and courage, knowing that they were stronger together. As the new year began, the woman felt a surge of energy and excitement. She and her community had accomplished so much, but she knew there was still more work to be done. The mentorship program had proven to be a success, and it was time to think about expanding their efforts even further. She began to consider how they could address other pressing issues in their community, such as access to education, job training, and mental health support. During one of their advisory board meetings, she brought up the idea of creating a resource fair. The goal would be to connect community members with local organizations that could provide assistance in various areas. Whether it was job training programs, educational workshops, or mental health resources, she wanted to ensure everyone had access to the support they needed. The board members were enthusiastic about the idea, and they quickly began planning the event. They set a date and started reaching out to local organizations, inviting them to participate in the resource fair. Schools, nonprofits, and health services all expressed interest in attending. The woman was thrilled to see so many groups willing to come together for the good of the community. They worked tirelessly to organize the logistics, from finding a venue to creating promotional materials to spread the word. As the day of the resource fair approached, the excitement in the community was palpable. The woman made sure to keep everyone updated, encouraging them to invite friends and family to attend. She wanted to ensure that no one felt excluded and that everyone had the opportunity to benefit from the fair. On the day of the event, the community center was buzzing with activity. Tables lined the walls, each one representing a different organization offering valuable resources. There were people from job training programs ready to help with resume building, representatives from local schools sharing information about educational opportunities, and mental health professionals offering advice and support. The woman greeted attendees as they arrived, feeling a sense of pride in what they had created. It was heartwarming to see families exploring the various tables, chatting with representatives, and learning about the resources available to them. Children played in a designated area while parents took the time to gather important information. Throughout the day, she moved around the fair, engaging with both community members and the organizations present. She listened to people share their stories and heard how they planned to take advantage of the resources being offered. Many attendees expressed their gratitude for the opportunity to learn about services they hadn't known existed. As the fair progressed, she noticed how the atmosphere shifted from one of uncertainty to one of hope. People were leaving the fair with pamphlets in hand and smiles on their faces. Some even shared stories about how they had connected with mentors or job training programs that could help them build a better future. Toward the end of the day, she gathered everyone for a closing speech. Standing in front of the crowd, she reflected on the journey they had taken together. "Thank you all for being here today," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "This fair is a reminder that we are stronger when we support each other. Together, we can create a community where everyone has access to the resources they need to succeed." The applause that followed was overwhelming. She felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that they had made a difference in the lives of so many people. The resource fair was not just an event. It was a step toward a brighter future for their community. After the fair, the woman and the advisory board began discussing how they could continue to build on this success. They brainstormed ideas for future events and initiatives, always focusing on what the community needed most. One suggestion that resonated with everyone was starting a monthly community conversation series. These gatherings would provide a platform for residents to discuss various topics affecting their lives, from neighborhood safety to educational opportunities. The goal was to keep the lines of communication open and ensure that everyone felt heard and valued. As they moved forward with their plans, the woman felt grateful for the support and dedication of her community. Together, they were creating something truly special, a place where everyone could thrive. The journey ahead was filled with possibilities, and she was excited to see what they could accomplish together. As the community conversation series kicked off, excitement filled the air. The first meeting was held at the local community center, a familiar place that had become a hub for connection and growth. The woman arrived early to set up, arranging chairs in a circle to create an inviting atmosphere. She wanted everyone to feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and feelings. When residents started to arrive, she greeted them with warm smiles and encouraged them to grab refreshments. It was important to her that everyone felt at ease. As people settled into their seats, she could sense a mix of curiosity and nervousness. This was a new venture for many, but she was hopeful that it would lead to meaningful conversations. To kick off the meeting, she introduced the purpose of the series. "This is a space for us to talk about what matters most to our community," she said. "We want to hear your voices, your ideas, and your concerns. Together, we can find solutions and support each other." As the discussion began, she noticed how eager people were to participate. One resident shared their experience with the job training programs offered at the resource fair, expressing gratitude for the support they had received. Others chimed in, sharing similar stories of how the community had helped them through difficult times. It was heartwarming to hear these connections, and the woman felt a sense of pride in what they had built together. However, as the conversation continued, some voices raised concerns about safety in the neighborhood. A few residents spoke about incidents that had made them feel uneasy, and the room became more serious. The woman listened carefully, acknowledging their fears and validating their experiences. "It's important that we talk about these issues," she said. "Safety is a priority for all of us, and together, we can work on solutions." From that moment on, the discussion took a productive turn. Residents began brainstorming ideas on how to improve safety in their area. Some suggested forming neighborhood watch crews, while others proposed organizing community cleanup days to promote pride in their surroundings. The energy in the room shifted from concern to determination. They were ready to take action. As the meeting wrapped up, the woman felt inspired by the creativity and commitment of her neighbors. She encouraged everyone to keep the momentum going and to bring their ideas to the next meeting. "Let's keep this conversation alive," she urged. "Change starts with us, and together, we can make our community a better place." The following meetings continued to build on the foundation they had established. Residents shared more ideas, and each gathering grew in attendance. The woman felt a sense of camaraderie developing among everyone. They were no longer just neighbors. They were a community united by a shared vision for a better future. One evening, as the meetings progressed, the woman had a thought that struck her. She realized it was time to reach out to local government officials to involve them in their discussions. By inviting them to the community conversations, they could provide valuable insights and support for the initiatives the residents wanted to pursue. After a few weeks of planning, she successfully invited local leaders to join the next conversation. When the day arrived, she felt both nervous and excited. Would the officials listen to the concerns of the community? Would they be willing to work together? When the officials arrived, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The woman introduced them, and everyone settled in for a meaningful dialogue. Residents shared their thoughts openly, discussing safety, education, and community resources. The local leaders listened attentively and took notes, showing genuine interest in what the community had to say. One official even offered to set up a follow-up meeting to discuss how the local government could support their initiatives. This was a significant moment for the woman and her neighbors. They felt seen and heard, and it was proof that their efforts were making a difference. As the weeks turned into months, the community continued to grow stronger. The woman realized that they were creating a model for others to follow, an example of what could happen when people come together with a common purpose. They were not just addressing problems, they were building relationships and fostering hope. The journey had been challenging, but every step was worth it. She felt grateful for the support of her community, knowing that they were capable of achieving great things. Together, they were changing their neighborhood for the better, creating a legacy of unity, respect, and love. And as the woman reflected on how far they had come, she couldn't help but feel excited for the future that lay ahead. As the community continued to flourish, the woman felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. She could see the changes happening all around her. People were engaging more with one another, sharing ideas, and working together to create a better neighborhood. The energy was infectious, and it motivated her to keep pushing for even more initiatives that would benefit everyone. With the successful launch of the community conversations and the positive response from local leaders, she decided it was time to focus on another area that needed attention: mental health resources. The pandemic had taken a toll on many people's emotional well-being, and she knew that access to mental health support was crucial for her community. She recalled hearing stories during previous meetings about residents feeling overwhelmed and isolated. It was time to do something about it. She began researching local mental health organizations and reaching out to professionals in the field. Her goal was to organize a mental health awareness event that would not only provide information, but also create a safe space for people to discuss their feelings and experiences. The idea was to invite mental health professionals to speak, offer workshops, and provide resources for those who needed help. After weeks of planning, the day of the mental health awareness event arrived. The community center was decorated with calming colors and positive affirmations. She greeted attendees as they walked in, ensuring everyone felt welcome and supported. There was a sense of warmth in the room, and the atmosphere was filled with a feeling of hope and understanding. The event began with a keynote speaker, a local therapist who shared valuable insights about mental health and wellness. She spoke openly about the importance of seeking help and breaking the stigma surrounding mental health issues. The audience listened intently, nodding along as they absorbed her words. It was clear that many people in the room were eager to learn more and take steps toward improving their mental health. Following the keynote address, the woman organized breakout sessions where attendees could choose topics that resonated with them. Some focused on stress management techniques, while others discussed mindfulness and self-care strategies. Participants engaged in open conversations, sharing their thoughts and feelings without judgment. It was heartwarming to see the community come together to support one another. During one of the sessions, a resident spoke about their struggles with anxiety and how it had affected their daily life. The room fell silent as they shared their story. The woman could see tears in the eyes of others who related to this experience. Afterward, a mental health professional encouraged the group to express their feelings and ask questions. It was a powerful moment of connection and vulnerability, and it reinforced the importance of creating a safe space for these discussions. As the day came to a close, the woman felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Attendees left the event with not only information, but also a renewed sense of hope and community. She watched as people exchanged contact information, promising to stay in touch and support one another. It was exactly what she had envisioned, a community coming together to lift each other up. In the weeks following the event, she noticed a shift in the community. More people began openly discussing mental health, and there was a noticeable increase in attendance at the community conversations. Residents were sharing their experiences and offering support to one another, creating an environment where everyone felt valued and understood. The woman also received positive feedback from local leaders who recognized the importance of addressing mental health within the community. They offered to provide additional resources and support for future events, further solidifying the partnership between the community and local government.